Chapter 7 Fall of a Yogi from Meditative Union. We hear about the fall of a yogi from Meditative Union. Though its occurrence is unavoidable, the nature of their downfall and its order should be listened to very carefully. Bringing Varenya's eagerness to attention, Shri Gajananda Prabhu instructs in the verse that it is definitely positive. Verse 59. चिन्तयानस्य विषयान् सङ्गस्तेषूपजायते कामसंवर्धते तस्मात् तत्क्रोधोऽभिवर्तते. A seeker who is well established in yoga makes it detached with the strength of his mind and then goes on to reach the state of a liberated soul. Still he may fall in yoga due to the earlier habits and tendencies making him stupid and greedy. What is the reason for that to happen? It is necessary to know. Listen to the method of discrimination to be followed in such a situation. Even one has attained the state of a liberated soul. As long as there is body, it is essential that the engagements related to it be performed. For this to happen, the individual soul's relation with it is to the extent of being a witness in the body in the form of reflection. He has to undergo the sorrows and joys that comes into his experience. Everyone has heard of this. Independent inspiration does not arise where there is actual reflection, but the connection as a witness proves to be his strength. The strength of his past avoided tendencies become of use to him. At every step, the enjoyment of sense objects as per his desires goes on since he has a body. Because of the propensity for enjoyment of those objects, the nature of the Atman as a witness goes away and attachment to the reflection arises. After that, little by little he begins to have a liking for enjoyment and the body starts getting attracted to the joys of sense objects. This is the beginning of the fall in yoga. Thereafter, the yogi completely forgets about the bliss of Svananda and starts desiring various kinds of enjoyment of sense objects. In short, it is true that the liberated soul, which was absorbed in the joys of Svananda, but because of the thinking of his reflection, he is not even aware as to when he forgot the joys of Svananda and when the attention of the reflection got cut off. In such a time, the tendency of the mind of a fallen yogi becomes such that even though it knows that the enjoyment of sense objects is illusory and we have no connection with it, but when the desire rises in us, we begin to think as to what is the harm in their enjoyment. There is no need to try purposely. Consider this to be the first step of decline. In brief, if the opportunity for enjoyment comes your way, then enjoy, otherwise don't. There is no pressure, and thinking in this manner is called contemplation of sense objects. Thus, the determination to have sense enjoyments is the beginning of the descent, the root of deviation of a stable mind. After that, when he looks at them, his desire to enjoy sense objects goes on increasing and then attachment starts to happen. Teshu Sangha Upajayate explains what is stated above. If one gets the occasion to enjoy, then enjoy. Later, this tendency vanishes and the desire to make efforts to enjoy sense objects arises. When the tendency to make efforts to look for occasions for enjoyment of sense objects gets created, it is said to be the manifestation of lust. This is what is meant by the words Tasmat Kama Samarvartante. In the process of fulfillment of that lust, if anyone creates an obstacle in that enjoyment, then anger develops towards that person and he is overthrown. Then Tata Krodho Adhivartate takes place, meaning the tendency is in the form of anger. It is due to this anger that the main element of knowledge gets clouded and then ignorance surrounds him completely. Thereafter, the course of his downfall has been described in verse 60. Krodadajnana sambhuti vibhramastu tatasmrute Brahmshat smriter mate dvamsa tadvamsat sopi nashyati. The path of tasting the nectar of yoga gets completely cut off due to this connection with the poisonous sense objects. In brief, the anger within him gets expressed through action and postures, and the feelings of Svananda, which were devoid of I and mine, and the knowledge that was associated with the identification with the Atman, also vanishes. Then the intellect gets deluded, and its steadfastness disappears. In the end, with the ending of the life force in him, he becomes completely foolish. Consider this to be the destruction of the Atman. This becomes the state of the yogi. When the yogi has given up awareness of the individual soul and Shiva and other perceptions, the state of the Atman gets enlightened with the attainment of Svanand. This is the state of accomplishment with knowledge. Considering the statement from the Shrutis, Yatra sarva atmaiva bhut, tatra ko mohaka shoka, there is no place there for me or mine. But identification with the reflection makes one think about sense objects, which lead to the ignition of the above mentioned lust, anger, and other tendencies. The result is that this is me and that is what is against me, and such other thoughts enters his mind. This is ignorance. In that condition, the state of Svananda is completely forgotten. Thereafter, the seeker begins to sink in the delusion that bodily pleasures are the only pleasures. How can a steady mind be present in such an individual? Thereafter, all kinds of pleasures seem very appealing to him, and his efforts bend in that direction. The liberated yogi who has a reflection then totally becomes the individual soul. In this manner, when the state of Svananda gets destroyed, it could be the death of that person. So far we saw how a seeker who becomes a liberated yogi falls. Now we shall see the description of what is the condition of such a yogi. After listening so far, King Varenya had a doubt in his mind as to how a yogi, after having got liberated while living, still remain in his body for the sake of fulfilling the actions as ordained according to his destiny, and to silence the remaining tendencies. The yogi keeps performing auspicious and inauspicious actions and also enjoys the fruits of those actions. Tendencies such as anger, lust, etc. keep happening. In such situations, one should maintain the witness attitude and remain aware of it as a reflection. But the possibility of it going away is truly great due to the above mentioned reasons. But what should one do that the above situation does not arise at all? What is meant is that, does one get the experiences of situations according to the body obtained as per destiny? How does one accomplish that? What is that yoga that can prevent the tragedy of falling in yoga? Tell me that. Vina dveshascha ragam cha gocharanyastu kaischaret swadhina hridayo vashyai santosham sa samricchati. So listening to such a prayer, Shri Gajananda Prabhu begins the verse 61 saying, when the body carries on the activities according to its destiny, it is because of the inappropriate behavior of the sense organs towards the sense objects that gives rise to the possibility of falling in yoga. How and why is that? In order that what was stated regarding this in the previous verses does not happen, it is necessary to accomplish the blissful meditative union. To accomplish that, one has to have a mind that is steady and not fickle. After enjoying the glory of attaining complete knowledge of the glory of Svanand, and after its actualization, if the intellect would have become calm, it would not have turned to the illusory sense objects. One should understand that this is the beginning of the state of a liberated person. It is only after actualization of the siddhi of supraconscious meditative union that this state should be stabilized. Till death, the yoga seeker's mind and heart, which is his subtle body, depends on the reflection of the individual soul. That is, he has complete awareness of the joys and sorrows according to his destiny. In other words, he has connection only as that of a witness. But to a mind that has become stable and has this connection as a witness, it is possible that the sense organs might get attracted to the sense objects and his connection to the witness state breaks off. And the sense organs gets identified with the joys and sorrows and begin to direct the mind as well. By doing this again and again, it could even influence the steadied mind and make it fickle. This might then lead to the falling down from the state of yoga as described earlier. Besides, to perform the remaining karmas as per his destiny, the seeds of tendencies remain manifest and keep happening at the lowest level. As a result, it becomes possible for the mind to be reduced to that state because without the presence of the mind, the sense organs cannot enjoy the objects of attraction. For this purpose, the mind has to gather around it. How is it to be gathered around? It is through dvesham cha ragam cha vinakhai kugocharan charit. Meaning, when the sense organs are engaged in the enjoyments of joys and sorrows of destiny, the mind cannot have love or hate towards it. That is, the mind cannot afford to be promoting the pleasant sensations and condemn the adverse sensations. It has to maintain its balance. In brief, whatever comes due to destiny should be endured as it is, and one should always remain content. This state of satisfaction should be maintained at all times. If this happens, we can say that the man has his heart under his control. Then, however many times and ways the sense organs may come across dualities, it will not have any impact on the mind. The sense organs must always be able to maintain that balance. Therefore, whatever may be the enjoyment of sense objects that may take place, he should not hold any liking or hate towards it whatsoever. In this manner, making use of one's discrimination with full satisfaction, one should keep the mind and sense organs under control and undergo the joys and sorrows that may arise due to the fulfillment of ordained karmas and remain in balance. With this practice, the blissful meditative union goes away. All the engagements in the world will be finished and the joys and sorrows related to the body will not remain for long. Then why should one seek protection against it? Therefore, when one is fortunate to receive something, then he should not have any liking or hatred towards it. If we bear everything equanimously, then there is no problem. What is going to happen if we maintain such a satisfied countenance? He says that in this state all the three types of sorrows end, and due to the development of a firm and stable intellect, the mind and body is absolutely happy and content. This is the meaning of the verse. Trividasyapi dukkasya santoshe kshepanam bhavet prajnaya sanstitaschayam prasannardayo bhavet. However many types of sorrows there may be, they all fall under three categories: Adhyatmic, spiritual; Adidaivic, metaphysical; and Adibhautik, physical. The yoga that causes harm to the body through sorrows of the body, such as sickness, etc., are spiritual sorrows. If the body is deficient as per one's destiny, which is painful, it is metaphysical sorrow. And the helplessness that one feels through insults and abuse from others is physical sorrow. It is possible to know these three types of sorrows in another way too. Due to past karmas, one is required to undergo a lot of sorrows. Those are spiritual sorrows. If one has to suffer sorrows due to royal anger or insults, etc., they are of the nature of physical sorrows. If a person suffers due to ghosts and goblins, etc., they are metaphysical sorrows. If one is content or indifferent while going through all these sorrows, then they are destroyed. Vina prasadam namati, vina matyana bhavanam, vina tamna shamo bhupa, vina tena kutha sukham. So in this verse 63, he says, what is meant here is that the sorrows and joys that one gets due to past karmas as per destiny have to be necessarily endured. They do not go away. How does one seek shelter for the body which is unreal? It's by not holding on to greed or distress, thereby resorting to blissful meditative union and stopping to worry about joys and sorrows. Then only the mind will become steady and the subtle body will always remain pleasant, and one can then enjoy peace. He says further, without experiencing the taste of blissful meditative union, the pleasure of the mind does not last. Without that pleasantness, the desire for a steady mind too does not arise. If one does not attain a steady mind, then the feeling of Svananda also does not get illumined. In other words, the experience of happiness which is obtained in the total union in one's soul also does not happen. Then, how can one benefit from the joy of peace? The cycle of birth and death will continue to take place with its attendant sorrows. Indriyaschan vicharato vishayananu vartate yanmanastanmatim hanyad ashwanavam marudyata. In the end, Shri Gajananda Prabhu says to King Varenya in verse 64, those who wish to experience my bliss, the joy that is in me as the Lord of Svananda, will be able to attain it only through the practice of blissful meditative union. One should accept whatever one gets due to destiny. One should completely give up the desire for joys and contempt for sorrows. This alone will serve you best, and one will never fall from this state of yoga. Keep this mysterious secret in your mind. In order to cement this instruction firmly in mind, he continues with the following verse. He says, where does the source of discontent lie? Listen carefully. When the individual soul as a reflection becomes satisfied by bringing the mind and intellect under control, due to repeated outgoing tendency of the sense organs towards sense objects, it becomes like that, and without support of the intellect, it gets destroyed. This has been mentioned before. If one considers the journey of life to be one's destiny, then the body that accomplishes this is the chariot that runs that life, and the charioteer is the mind. The individual soul that has assumed this body is the form of Ganesha. It is he who is seated in the chariot. His wife Buddhi works favorably for him. Shri Gajananda says, the individual soul which has assumed a body in me in reality, but having taken shelter under Maya, I have become a confused soul. The outward going sense organs can be compared to horses, which on seeing the sense objects begin to run in that direction. The body, which is like a chariot, also gets pulled in the direction where the strength lies. Therefore, if the mind, which is the driver of the chariot, does not take hold of the reins that are tied to the horses in the form of sense organs and pulls them together, then the mind cannot be steadied. Therefore, if one is desirous of having the nectar, then the charioteer in the form of the mind should gather and hold the galloping horses together. There is no use following them in pursuit. One goes after them. The mind becomes unsteady. This means that if the mind follows the dictates of the sense organs, it destroys the intellect. It is then like the boat in a sea without a boatman, which gets swallowed in the whirlpool and is destroyed. So also a mind, swayed by the tide of the sense organs, gets carried away if it engages with the sense objects that they are attracted to. Eventually, it makes it unsteady, and the seeker no longer entertains any desire for the bliss of Svananda. After listening to the narration so far, the doubtful King Varenya asked a question. He said, from the time of assuming the body at birth till death, the awareness of the joys of material objects and the attraction towards them are unexpected. But it definitely takes place, which makes me feel that I shall never get that peaceful state of mind. So, will that seeker who has achieved a state of the liberated soul ever have a peaceful mind? Meaning, what is it that will make that content state of the seeker lasting? That is to say, how to make it possible that the moment a desire arises in the mind, it gets fulfilled instantly. Please explain the mystery of this subject more elaborately. Ya ratri sarvabhutanam tasyam nidrati naivasa na swapanti hate yatra saratristasya bhumipa. So in verse 65, Shri Gajananda Prabhu replies, what is the state and feelings in the mind of such a yogi? That is to say, how is one to know the source of the mystery of his peace? Listen to it carefully. An ordinary individual soul is constantly struggling for happiness from the sense objects which are dual in nature. Their internal and external states are always discontent. There is a total absence of balanced content. He does not experience the sunshine of satisfaction. Therefore, his position could be considered as one of darkness like the night, because there is darkness all around during the night. Therefore, one is not able to carry on any activity. Even if someone tries to create artificial light, the darkness still does not go away completely due to the deficiency of sunlight. People give up hope of getting sunlight and carry on their work in darkness itself. Similarly, the real sunlight of contentment is never attained by the ignorant. Therefore, their condition is like that of nightfall. In brief, without the sunlight of consciousness of Svananda, there can be no light of the joy of peace. Therefore, from the point of view of yoga, the state of a discontent individual soul is like that of night itself. But the condition of a yogi is not like that. That is why, even at night, they are as aware as they are during the daytime. From the point of view of a yogi, discontentment is comparable to night. The ignorant soul remains awake and performs all his activities like he does during the day. Therefore, even though Surya provides light, it is like lighting the ignorance. All those who are blinded by the enchantments of sense objects cannot be totally content. Nobody even tries to accomplish that. Therefore, one should consider that state to be the night. But if all their activities are filled with discontent, then how is all their discontent also their day? He gives some examples on the subject. Living in the land of gold, the gods enjoy all kinds of amusements, but they are never able to enjoy peace because they are always filled with the fear of losing their positions. Will someone rob them of their position? This fear always keeps nagging them. To allay those fears, the gods keep performing all kinds of penance. This is well known. There is an example of Vishnu doing tapas at Siddhatek for 100 years due to Madhukaidap. Then there is an example of worshipping me at Ranjangaon for killing Tripurasur. From these examples, it is clear that having got the position of godhood, there is always the fear of someone trying to seize their position. Therefore, nobody sits around idle without regret that all this has happened due to the past karmas, as per one's destiny. Instead, they try again. This alone is their discontent. So, in brief, a yoga seeker who is steadfast in this undergoes experiences of whatever one is required to do according to one's destiny, since it does not happen to anyone else. That is the reason why what is day for others is night for a yogi, and that which is night for others is their day. This is what has been stated here. A yogi is absorbed in divine contemplation. Even though the physical activities of the yogis may look just like the other ordinary people, their mind is the opposite. To clarify the secret contained in this verse, it is necessary to understand what is contained in the commentary of Sri Gargya Maharshi. Firstly, he speaks about the earlier concomitant. Taking into consideration the description of the transformation given in the earlier verse, even after attaining the knowledge of self, the intellect having stabilized and the mind also having become content, still due to the inclination of sense organs for enjoyment, there is a definite possibility of falling in the state of yoga. Then, how does the yogi keep his mind steady? Such a doubt arises, and so He begins the next verse to explain how to release the doubt. He says, a yogi's mind is contrary to that of other people. When it is night for the rest of the world, the yogi does not sleep. Here the word night should be understood as absence of any activity. The people of this world always remain discontent as they keep troubling one another in unison. Even though they may attain the state of Brahma, their desires do not go away. The present, which is their day, is always filled with discontent. On that basis, their happiness should be their night. They should remain content with whatever result they get as per their destiny. This is the character of contentment. This happiness will be night for human beings. In that night, the yogi does not sleep, or it can be said that a yogi is never discontent. It is because of the discontent that human beings go on working uniformly as it is day for them. On such a day, the yogi goes to sleep because his state of mind is always content and happy. Then, where is the need for all that trouble? Even though assuming a body by a yogi is just the same as for other human beings, the state of his mind is, however, totally opposite. He is in a state of total absorption in divine contemplation. If the tendency of the sense organs is to rush towards sense objects all the time, then how can the yogi who has a body be content? How can falling from the state of yoga be prevented? This doubt of King Varenya got partly expelled on hearing that the state of mind of a yogi is contradictory and that he is content on having achieved his ordained karmas, and so discontentment does not happen. Then how will he fall down from his state? Now we talk of the second part of the doubt as to why shouldn't be for the sake of having taken a body. It is true that several kinds of desires arise in the mind of a yogi, and if they are not fulfilled, there is a possibility of discontentment. Then the question arises as to how will he make his mind quiet. This doubt is addressed in the next verse. Saritam patimayanti vanani sarvato yatham ayanti tam tata kamam sana shantim sadhalabhet. Shri Gajananda Prabhu says to King Varenya, how does a yogi whose mental vital consciousness substance has become completely peaceful on account of his absorption in divine contemplation look like? Listen. Following the yoga as per his destiny, he remains content with whatever auspicious and inauspicious enjoyments that come across his path, and remaining there he manages them. Since the yogi has attained such steadiness, no other desires rise in him. He is always at peace. He narrates a view on the subject. An ocean that is filled completely with water is complete, expansive and bottomless, but it still absorbs the waters that pour into it from all sides within its folds, and at the same time it does not quarrel or desire that they should come to it. The waters from all over as it is come to it. The ocean does not have any sense of support or protection towards it. Again, during monsoons, the waters that come pouring into it are muddy. Some are dark while others are pure and crystal clear, but the ocean does not feel anything about it. Then there are waters and lakes in different parts of the earth, but they are not questioned by the sea or the ocean as to why they are there. So, in brief, one should consume only that much water that comes to you. This is the predetermined law. On the same lines, as per destiny, one should enjoy only that much enjoyment that comes our way. A yogi's state is similar to this. In the same way, if one comes across emotions such as respect, disrespect, etc., it does not affect the yogi's mind in any way. Try and understand everything from the examples that are given you. For the subsistence of the body, all those activities that are necessary according to one's destiny are definitely attained. It is not necessary to make much effort for it, nor is it done. No other specific desires take place. Since all the desires for enjoyment are attained, the yogis never become discontent and their surrender is spontaneous. This is what is stated here. Just as the ocean filled to its brim with water does not desire any other water, so also the yogi who is desirous of identification with the Atman does not have any other desires, nor does he have any other expectations. The water may come from anywhere. Still, there is no shortage or excess of water in the ocean, nor are there any changes. In the same way, the enjoyment of desires keep coming to the yogi on its own, according to his destiny. And then, whether they come or not, still the state of a yogi does not get disturbed or fall. Therefore, as the verse says, Sana yogi ashanti swaswarup bhedarupa sadana labhet swaswarup alinas tishtati. Alinas tishtati. The seeker who is firmly established in his yoga is never required to face anything other than his swaswarup, which might be a cause of discontent to him. We shall further see in the next audio about the state of a liberated yogi.